Thundergrunt.
Welcome to Writers Blockbusters, the show that treats the final edit of a movie like a script. I am one of the hosts, Bob Rose, and with me is two other guys who are going to introduce themselves.
I am Jimmy George. I am a screenwriter and script consultant. My Twitter handle is @JimmyRGeorge.
I am, who am I? Kevin Feige? No.
Kevin
I'm
Feige?
Yeah. Kevin Feige? No. I am Jamie Nash, author of Save the Cat Writes for TV.
And what's your Twitter handle? Just go.
My Twitter handle is, I'm going to talk like this the whole time, is @Jamie_Nash. By the way, what happened to weren't we supposed to get some really cool, like, title song or something?
The new song. We are getting a new theme song.
Am I spoiling that? I didn't hear it. We just played the old music.
No, we are getting a new theme song. It's just that the guy writing it just got married, so he's been a little So that would be Mike Settis. He has written most Thundergrunt theme songs that exist. So I think this show's the last one that doesn't have an original one.
Is it the guy who wrote the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme? The guy.
He's probably available, but I'm not paying him.
No, the reason I brought that guy up, isn't that the guy who's Chuck Lorre?
2.5 Men.
2.5 Men,
And
Big Bang
Kaminsky
Theory.
Project.
Big Bang Theory. Yeah.
He might cost more than my budget there, Jamie. So
okay.
I don't think I have.
I just hadn't heard he was doing a show since. Did he do The Ranch? I think he might have done The Ranch on Netflix. I don't know.
No.
Maybe that wasn't him.
I'm a blue cheese guy, so I don't know. So anyway,
better title, Blue Cheese.
Blue Cheese, yeah, just as the competing.
I think that's the Avatar sequel,
right?
Blue Cheese.
Well, we're bouncing all over the place with these jokes, just like in the movie we're going to talk about, which it bounces all over the place, which is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. A movie that me and Jamie saw about 2 weeks ago and Jimmy saw 12 hours ago.
Yes.
So if anyone's wondering how fresh or how stale our memory can be, you're going to find out on this episode.
Yeah, we got a little delayed in our recording. So.
Yeah, we've had a few life hiccups, so we had to skip an episode, but it's okay.
We're back.
We're back. We're gonna dust ourselves off, and we're gonna jump through a portal, and I'm gonna keep talking about nothing. All right, Jamie, who wrote this shit?
Who wrote this shit? Sponsored by Michael. Yeah, Michael Waldron wrote this, and Michael Waldron is a guy who kind of struck it big. I'm trying to remember. I should have looked this up.
I got it up if you want. He wrote for Rick and Morty.
Yes.
He wrote mainly in the MCU. He did Loki, which is obviously the first like big multiverse thing.
Yes.
And he also is doing a new Star Wars thing
with Kevin Feige. That's our inside joke.
Feige.
Yeah.
Jamie, isn't there some story about a hot spec?
That's what I was getting to. So the hot spec he wrote this spec I remember from a couple years back. Maybe I don't remember exactly when it was, but you can find it on the Blacklist. It was called The Worst Guy of All Time and the Girl Who Came to Kill Him. And it was kind of this almost bonkers, absurd stunt spec that landed him on the Blacklist. He was already a TV writer, but this kind of shifted his career into gear. It put him on the Marvel kind of radar, and it landed him the Loki job and the Doctor Strange job specifically. So if you want to find that,
there you go. I like that backstory.
It didn't get made, but it does have a director attached to it. It's Jonathan Entwistle, for Stampede Studios. And Jonathan Entwistle is the guy who made, I'm trying to think of the Netflix show. It's got a cuss word in it.
A cuss word? Really?
The End of the Effing World. That's what it is. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I watched that.
It's a good show. It's really good. I'm a big fan of the show. And it's kind of wacky and stuff like that. So, hopefully this movie gets made. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in the script that landed him the Loki job and landed him this Doctor Strange job, I'm sure you can find it out there, because anything that's on the blacklist always is out there. So you can find it. Go read the PDF. Figure it out for yourself.
Well, I'll love promoting PDFs.
PDF.
Good PDF.
Sponsored by PDF.
What's the box office on this, Jamie? What's the
yes
Omicron box office?
You know what's funny? Like, all these movies, they just now say budget 200 million, and I don't even think they try anymore. They just say 200 million.
Yeah, we probably spent somewhere around there. It doesn't matter.
It's probably 500. And one thing we should say, and this is the reason movies like this sometimes cost even a little bit more. This one did have Scott Derrickson and is it Cargill?
Yep.
They did the whole development process of this. I don't know quite why they left or what happened behind the scenes.
He chose to, I think there was creative differences. His house burned down and he chose to direct The Black Phone instead.
Okay.
Scott Derrickson, that is. This is just for me following him on Twitter, but okay. I know that he's very pro Raimi and he's still an executive producer. They've definitely cheered it on, and they seem like two super nice guys. They do,
and they make really good films. So anyway, they went through a whole development process. They had a script. They were moving towards a release date. I think COVID hit, and COVID actually gave Raimi and Waldron time to kind of start from the beginning again. So that's why neither of those guys get credit on this particular version of the movie. So anyway, but that's not what you asked me. You asked me how much money had this movie made. So far, and how long has it been out? 2 weeks? May 6th.
Yeah,
May 6th.
May 6th. Yeah.
Today we're recording this on what?
May 19th.
May 19th.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it has made 302 million domestically and worldwide 715 million.
Wow.
Okay.
715. Gonna get to the billion for sure.
It looks like it's gonna crawl to the billion. Yep.
Yeah, it will.
Like, it's gonna crawl like a zombie Doctor Strange toward $1 billion.
You gotta admit, you know what? I mean, like, Spider-Man made what, almost 2 billion? You gotta admit, for a character like Doctor Strange to actually have a movie that reaches that,
I agree. Yeah,
it's like, it shows just how this stuff has gotten.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could say out of control or whatever you want to use, but that's crazy. I never thought a Doctor Strange movie could make that kind of money.
Yeah, without throwing any shade at this movie at all.
Yeah.
This is like a B-tier Marvel movie. This is like Ant-Man or one of the second Thor movie or something like that.
Yeah.
This is not the Avengers or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Endgame or Civil War or even Spider-Man 3, which kind of felt like some big conclusion to the Spider-Man trilogy or something like that. So
yeah, this is just a casual Doctor Strange sequel, really. And it's still making that kind of tonnage on the money front.
Yep.
Well, okay, before we get into the actual outline of talking about the script, let's go around and talk about our personal feelings on the movie. Just give a little non-script snippet review like we always do, because, let people know where we're talking from. That's where, where we trash something and say we hate it and it sucks. I'm totally kidding. Who wants to start? Jamie, you want to go first?
Sure. So to put this in context, Sam Raimi he's probably in my top 3 directors, most influential, most favorite. I'll go see anything anything he makes, I'll go see it. So he's right up there at the top, and he's up there for the weirdest reasons. He seems like Spielberg is probably my number 1. I mean, Spielberg's at the top. I don't know who would be number 2. It could be Raimi. It might not be, but Raimi just feels like he's one of us or something. He's kind of goofy. He stars, and he's almost like the star of his movie. He's very heavy-handed, unless you're talking about The Gift or Simple Plan or something like that.
Good movies, though.
Great movies.
Great movies.
He kind of showed that he can do other things. But in a movie like this, you almost go like he's part of it. He's almost showing off at times.
Mhm.
And I went to see this to see him show off to an extent. And he did. And he delivered that to me in ways that I found really fun. And I thought brought a lot of like creative ideas I hadn't seen in the Marvel universe in a long time. Like I was talking, these things won't come up in the podcast as much, but like the cape of demons and the music battle and the possessing, Strange, kind of the dead Strange. These things, like, I love those things. I mean, I had a great time with this, and it was short. It didn't feel long. However, I will say that story-wise and stuff, I kind of came out of this. I saw it a couple weeks ago, and those aspects of it didn't really register. It felt like, let's just get that stuff out of the way so we can have a lot of wild, goofy Sam Raimi fun in the middle. So some kind of it's a mixed review for me because I love the individual parts of this movie. I actually like Benedict Cumberbatch a lot. I think he's fun. But overall, I'm not sure that, like, coming out of it, I could barely remember like what the things we're going to talk about today. It was like I completely came out of it like, okay, why were they chasing them through the thing? And what was the thing? I didn't care that much about those. It didn't move me emotionally that much. All that stuff felt a little surface level. But I had a great time. I laughed. I had fun. And I'll remember those individual kind of cool, kind of trailer momenty things for a long time coming.
Yeah,
I'll rewatch it for that reason too. So that's my quick synopsis.
Jimmy?
All right, me, yeah, like I said, I just got
you
out
haven't
of
even had time to like
fresh.
process it, man.
Well, I mean, I kind of had to for the show.
Sure.
But yeah, I love everything about this movie except for the script. I love the score. I love the performances. I love, like Jamie's mentioning, what it's not even on the talking points, but the premise delivery is through the roof, like in so many cool ways. It does so many different things with the multiverse of madness premise that I was really happy to see. And Sam Raimi's energy and direction, I think, is very measurable. It's very clearly his movie. I mean, you get so many of his tools that we've seen in the past and his style, and with a Doctor Strange paint, on it. And so those things. And yeah, like you said, Jamie, he tends to be heavy-handed. But with the Marvel universe, that works well. Like that fits the Marvel universe well.
His tricks get a little lost in the Marvel universe, to be honest.
Yeah.
You don't even notice them as much. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a nice fit. And so on those things, I had a great time. I think the script is pretty messy. That being said, I think there's a lot of craft that we're going to talk about, even though I think the first 2/3 of this movie are kind of a fucking mess, story wise. But as far as like the third act, I think the third act is really solid, and it's like really emotionally satisfying for me personally. And the third act really won me over. Like getting into that last act, I was kind of like, man, I don't know how I feel about this. And then that last act was so like, it just kept hitting and hitting and hitting. And I just like fell in love with it after those. And the payoffs are really satisfying for me. So yeah, I love everything about this movie except for the script. And we're going to talk about why that is.
We're going to mention that in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
We mentioned the script a few times. Okay, yeah, I don't want to parrot everything you guys said, but I'll be the super positive guy. Like, I actually, Doctor Strange, the first movie, is actually one of my favorite MCU movies. I know that's a rare opinion. I love Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange. I love this movie. This is maybe one of my favorite MCU movies. Now,
whoa.
Yeah, like, that being said, I also don't disagree with either of you. Like, it's not because of the script. I'm not like, this is a marvel of writing. It's not that. It's the number one, the fact that Sam Raimi is probably like, one of my favorite directors of all time. If not, probably like number 2, if I had to think. And it's absolutely fun. And also I like the fact that for some reason, this movie had so much weighing on it with people. And I was actually like, really scared going into this movie that it was going to be just a litany of cameos. You know, like everyone was hoping for some reason that's what movies are now. I'm like, no, I don't want that. Instead, one of the reasons I truly love this movie is because the cameos we did get were somewhat satisfying, but then I get to see Sam Raimi kill everybody. Like, it's like the one time we've gotten so far where it's like, here's everyone new, and now they're horribly murdered, you know? So and I feel like from that moment onward to the third act, it's just, you know, it's like that third act, you can't beat it. You know, I haven't had as much fun with a third act in a Marvel movie, I don't know, since Thor Ragnarok. I don't know. It's been a while since I've actually enjoyed a Marvel movie this much. And I think I'm going to give the credit, like you guys, to Sam, you know, obviously. But I also just really like the world of Doctor Strange. I like him. I like the characters involved in this specific franchise. So I'm really pro this movie. I could happily watch it again. I don't care that it's a mess. I love several movies that are a complete mess. Sometimes I like a kitchen sink. Throw it all in there. And sometimes it's just like, okay, what happens next? It doesn't matter. I don't need the logical, you know, the smooth transitions. Just throw it at me. I'll take it. So, yeah, I really love this movie. I'm a big fan of it. So, yeah, we should probably talk about the messiest part of it, though, which would be the script. And I feel like the first thing we got on here is like almost specific more so than anyone in the MCU to Doctor Strange, which is the infinite mumbo jumbo, right? Like, who does this apply to more? What character, right?
Well, let's talk. Did we? Is it still on there to talk about whether this is a horror movie?
It is.
It is. I moved it
down.
Okay. Okay. I thought. I'm sorry. My bad.
I wasn't skipping anything.
Jesus, Bob.
It was.
Hey, I'm going by the outline.
Yeah, I did some last minute adjusting, but it doesn't necessarily make sense why I adjusted. I was trying to find it in, but
all right. So our
outline is as messy as the script for Doctor Strange.
Yeah. So I put this on here, and this is kind of the thing I'm most excited to talk about with you guys, because Bob, you once said to me, or I think you've said it on this show, that you kind of check out with the Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, I'm not a big Harry Potter fan in general, but I always did check out during the movies. Yeah,
because
before they had a like aura of not being problematic and stuff.
And I think you said it was kind of because when all else fails, they just pull out a trick that we've never heard of, and then it's endless. Right. Deus Ex
Machina, just like, how do we fix this? Well, the key of, you know, Basilado, just go get that and it'll do that. And it's like, okay, but what?
Like if you don't know, it's kind of like playing Dungeons and Dragons or watching a Dungeons and Dragons thing.
Yeah.
And if you knew the guy had a spell of infinite victory, then it's not as scary. The thing isn't as scary. And you're always wondering, can he just pull that spell out of his bag of tricks at any given time?
Like,
yeah, it's magic system.
I don't mind magic that honestly makes no sense, but you gotta write it in such a way that you gotta set it up and pay it off. You can't just in the third act be like, well, there's this.
Well, I'm gonna disagree with you as far as how that works in this movie. I mean, I'm
not saying this movie. I'm just saying in general. I feel like there's Harry Potter movies. I've never read the books, but there's Harry Potter movies that literally do that, where it's like, well, what do we do? And then somebody mentions something, and that becomes the new task, the new MacGuffin. And I'm like, well, we didn't know that existed until an hour and a half in. Like, what, you know?
So the reason I brought this up is because there's a thing. It's Jamie, do you want to kind of set up what double mumbo jumbo is?
Sure.
And then we'll bounce off of it.
Yeah. So in Blake Snyder's first book, he came up with a thing called double mumbo jumbo. And he said, beware of double mumbo jumbo. And that's any movie that kind of has two completely different magic systems that you're creating an idea for. So, or when I say magic, keep that in quotes because it could be all different things, but it's kind of combining, like if you said aliens versus wizards or something like that. And that wasn't the concept of it. Like there are things like cowboys versus aliens, that's the concept.
Right.
And we've talked about this in the Marvel universe.
I believe our Avengers Endgame episode.
Endgame is
a lot.
where,
because Marvel is it's by
Infinite.
definition,
Yeah.
it's the universe has all these different kind of magic systems and superpowers.
Every
and actually,
religion is real in Marvel.
actually, I see a lot of Save the Cat criticism that brings up double mumbo. Like that guy doesn't know. Look at the Marvel thing, double mumbo jumbo. He was really talking about spec scripts and stuff like that. He wasn't talking about if you're making some franchise or adapting Cowboys versus Aliens or something. He probably loved, honestly, Blake Snyder probably would have loved the concept Cowboys versus Aliens. He probably would have thought that was great. But he's really talking about accidentally just starting to include different things that don't necessarily jive together, and thinking that somehow just adding a hat on a hat on a hat is a good idea. This is a little different, and I don't even think that's necessarily you. It sounds like you're more gearing towards a talk about like something that comes up in fantasy writing all the time. And if you read like a book about fantasy writing, I'm sure they cover how to define your magic system or something like that, like how to come up with that. But anyway,
I'm bringing it up for a couple reasons, and that you set it up. I'm glad you set that up, because that's like a really important. There's a couple reasons. First of all, I am reading a lot of scripts that do magic, and they have like 7 sets of magic with its own rules. Like I've used this example before, but I had a script once where I just to kind of clarify for the writer how hard it was to emotionally connect with all the different magic systems. I just took all the explanation of what the magic was and how it was work out of the script and made a PDF just of the magic rules. And there were 27 pages of magic rules, just of someone saying, this is the staff of Jimmy, and when you use it, he teaches you screenwriting in your head. That's
someone that, like Jamie said, that's someone that wants to do a D&D campaign, not write a script, you know?
Right. But so there's the danger in trying to say what can you learn from like a Marvel movie, is that people will watch this and be like, well, I can just do what they did in Doctor Strange and just throw out magic left and right without explaining it, and the audience will love it. And why I'm bringing this up is, Bob, what you've taught me through this podcast is that these superheroes themselves are their own genre with their own expectations. Like, I think it only works because it's Doctor Strange. Like, if you do this in any other movie, because for me, it's like the example I wanted to use is like, have you guys ever heard of when you the scripts for a medical TV show? Whenever there's something medical, it just says in the script medical. So like the actors always joke, like the first drafts of a hospital show, like a Grey's Anatomy or an ER, like half the script, the dialogue just says medical. And then they have a professional come in and say 50 cc's of glypholin. And you as an audience don't you don't microanalyze like, what the fuck is 50 cc's?
Yeah,
that sounds like too much. Like, he's going to kill him. Like, you don't know. You go with it because it's a genre expectation. It's part of the experience, is throwing out these medical. Give me 100 cc's of blah, blah, stat. Like, you just go with it, and you don't even think about what that is or how that works. And this is the same magic. Like, they're throwing out magic. I literally just check my brain at the door whenever magic comes up or is used. And I think, but it still works for me. And I think that's really instructive to say, like, that only works because it's Doctor Strange.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anything, I mean, we are talking about a movie that is a sequel to at least 3-4 things, if not 10 things, you know? And I think what they've done is because Doctor Strange is not a household character.
Right.
The good news is his name has Strange in the title, which does add to the thing you're saying, Jimmy. Like, people are willing to give him leeway on it's going to be strange. I don't know what he can do, what he's capable of.
Right.
You kind of trust. What they've done is they've built authority into Doctor Strange since the Avengers movies, I feel.
Yes.
Where the audience kind of trusts that he knows what he's doing, even though we have no fucking clue what is going on. Like, okay, can he do that? Can he wave his hands and create bigger hands that rip a streetlight out?
Right. That
Sure.
There's zero explanation for that.
He can do that apparently.
But that is this story world's version of 50 cc's of glyphosate.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And I just wanted to bring it up because if you're out there and you're writing a script with a magic system and a magic story, I would proceed with caution with treating your magic the way that these Doctor Strange movies do, because the audience, you don't have the luxury of all those previous movies to build in this sense of expectation and confidence and willingness to go with it.
You're saying this is a very rare case. I mean, even the first Doctor Strange movie spends a lot of time showing him
explaining the magic. He's got the thing on his hand, and he
goes to school. He reads like hundreds of books. Even he's surprised by what he's getting. So you just have to assume his authority on this stuff. That's all been built in to when we get here, where we just take it for granted. We're like, he knows what he's doing, and I got to trust that. Like, if he can't, if there's something he can't handle, it's because he doesn't have a solution for it. You know, and the same vice versa. You know, so,
and then it becomes important. Why doesn't he? But I would say, like, I never want to discourage people, but when it comes to magic systems, you really have to be careful with how you are setting them up, using them within your story, paying them off, and the audience, for something that is not built-in IP. If you're writing a spec with new magic that the audience has never seen, you can't just throw it out willy-nilly for 220 pages and 500 different spells that need no explanation. You have to be careful.
That said, I was gonna say the best meme I've seen this movie breed was it was a picture of Doctor Strange from No Way Home doing the forgetting spell, and he's like, Wanda forgets her kids, and then this
that's it.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, that's gonna happen because he has so many tricks. You're gonna constantly bring up everything he's already done, you know?
Yeah. But, so anyway, I thought it was worth. You've taught me, Bob, that
I'm glad I taught you anything, so I'm happy.
You always teach me something, but you've taught me that these superheroes themselves are their own genre, and they come with their own set of expectations and things that the audience is willing to absorb and accept, and that are specific to that. That's why we talked about in Endgame how we have like 32 different characters that we've already know what their genre is, and when you just kind of go with it when they're center stage, Yeah,
no one's questioning how Iron Man's armor works in a movie. It just okay, he can do that. All right.
Right. Yeah.
Trust that he can.
Yeah.
So no, if you want to hear more, I would recommend the Endgame episode. I feel like
we talk about this.
We cover that with all that and time travel too, because I feel like there was a lot of talk about them describing time travel and how that can get boring for the audience and stuff too, right? Like, if you try to describe all of this in a script too, it's a problem.
It becomes very on the
boring.
Nose, and
it's just all exposition.
So
what? Just to conclude this, we're saying in this specific genre of Doctor Strange, in his own world, it does work.
It works.
The jumbo.
Yeah. My discussion was that I wanted to have was, why does it work?
Gotcha.
And what can we learn from that? We can learn that it works because it's Doctor Strange.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
It's almost like, though, you have to trust Doctor Strange,
the character.
Like, if he's worried, then we should be worried, and because he must not have a spell that can make Wanda forget, or so he can't do that. So he's almost like defining his own limitations. But against the giant squid, he can pull out some big fists and punch him in the eye or something, or whatever he does.
That's why some of this too is not. I don't want to say it's not writing, but you need to have like a commanding performance like Cumberbatch, because like Jamie said, you got to trust him. It's got to be on it. Like we're basically reading his face to know how we should feel at every moment, because we have no clue what is
What do
happening.
you think, dude?
Yeah, right. Right.
How are we?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, okay. But that kind of leads, since you were talking about how they're all their own universes, that kind of leads to the franchise itself of the MCU franchise stuff. and what all the stuff that I didn't ask you guys, but did you guys watch WandaVision? I have.
Mm-hmm.
You have, Jimmy?
I watched it just for this show.
Just for this show. Jamie, have you seen it?
I did. I watched it.
So we've all seen WandaVision. We've seen the franchise stuff that led up to this. Mm-hmm. And that brings us to us talking about things that need fixing overall and how that's weird for a movie like this. It's hard to talk about because it's such an amorphous concept.
Yeah. So there's a couple things I wanted to talk about with the things that need fixing. And things that need fixing, the idea is, it's another save the cat term, but the idea of things that need fixing is in the setup of the movie, like the first 10, 12 minutes, you set up all these things in the hero's personal life that needs fixing. And they're things that internally need fixing. They're usually not like the dragon needs to be slayed or something like that. They're things like, oh, he's lonely, or oh, he has to get over his ex who's getting married.
Is he happy?
Like is he happy? Things like that. How is that affecting his life? How is that slowing things down? What needs to change in his life to kind of make him more, either confident or emotional or loving or whatever the thing is. So that's the things that need fixing. But the interesting thing about this movie is one, I feel like it almost reminds me of spec scripts I read where people are going into it more for the plot and concept, which is a lot of us, me included. I'll raise my hand. And then you kind of have to tack on the arc or the things that need fixing for him. Like, to me, it didn't feel like this is Doctor Strange's huge journey to take. You know what I mean? Like, oh, he still is in love with that girl after all that Endgame stuff and all the other stuff and the multiverse and blah, blah, blah. We've just known he's been sad about that this whole time, about Rachel McAdams' character, who I barely remembered from the first movie. It felt to me like they needed something, so they kind of came up with this. That was my criticism of it a little bit.
To add to the franchise thing, I would say that while it doesn't really have anything directly to do with this, I made Jimmy watch it.
Yes.
The What If episode, I think. Oh. Really expounds on the love he has for her.
Yeah.
And it, like, once again, this is a sequel. So many things. I feel like after watching the first movie and that, it makes me actually care about their relationship.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
See how not watching those things or
not having that context.
Not having that context. Like that What If episode is literally about him. Spoilers, destroying the universe because of his love for her. So yeah. I have that context when I'm watching this movie. You know what I mean?
You even meet like evil version of himself
and stuff
in the What If episode that you meet in this movie. Yeah, so that character appears in the What If episode.
And I'm not saying I'm agreeing with you, Jamie. I'm just saying like this needing that context. I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I wanted to get into with this. Exactly, that is so. That's the thing that's unique about this one, even though that feels tacked on. And the other thing that happens in this movie sets up things that need fixing in other people's worlds too. So America has things that need fixing. Wanda, of course, has things that need fixing.
Just a bit, yeah.
Yeah, they all have things that need fixing, and they're set up in similar ways that you'd set up the main heroes' things that need fixing. Mm-hmm. So several people have things that need fixing in this movie. And they're all set up in here. And some of them are set up like Wanda, almost more in the franchise. The
entire franchise has been a setup of things that need fixing for Wanda leading up to this. Yeah.
And to your point, there's a What If episode that's an animated something, and it's a What If, and that's a
setup. Yep.
Setup. Yeah. So it's doing some weird things with that. I think that's what allows us, or allows them, I should say, to get away with kind of some of the shorthand because we have all this other, we care about Doctor Strange for other reasons, that we have baggage with him. We've been along a long journey with Doctor Strange and Wanda, and not as much America. But
a lot of these Marvel movies feel like series finales, and like each one of them, and then So that's my problem whenever we decide to do one of these things, because I'm not usually up on the MCU, that I have to watch all the episodes leading up to the series finale. Otherwise, I'm not going to care about the series finale.
To be fair, it's publicly said by Sam Raimi that he did not watch all of the MCU to make this movie.
But the screenwriter did, I'm sure.
I'm assuming also Sam Raimi at least watched WandaVision. I'm assuming. I mean, I hope. I don't know, but
Jamie, that's a really interesting point. Yeah, it's like the things that need fixing are set up in other movies. Yeah.
Well, like, look, I've already said how much I love this movie, but Wanda's turn at the beginning, I was thinking, like, how does that work for someone that had, if they just saw this and nothing else? That turn is weird, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't like that, to be honest. It just what you said. It almost invalidates everything in WandaVision.
I agree.
In one quick stroke, it's like
away.
And
I don't actually think it does, but that's me.
It almost feels like Raimi didn't watch WandaVision.
Well,
he was like, I kind of get the gist. Okay, yeah. So now she would want that thing
only because of the Darkhold.
Yeah, okay.
It is a possession movie.
That's true.
Wanda is under the influence of the Darkhold. They do say that in context.
That's true.
And once it doesn't have her mind anymore, she does, revert.
Very true.
Yeah. So there is that.
My only problem, one of my problems with it also was the whole time I was thinking in the beginning, why doesn't she want Vision there? Why isn't he there? And then aren't these kids? Weren't they made up? Weren't they something she manufactured? I think they explained that somewhere that because she manufactured them.
They're not real.
They're in the multiverse. It's like, but I guess the multiverse is infinite, so you could have any number of combinations of weird.
Yeah, the explanation for why things exist in the other universes doesn't matter. Just they are. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would almost say
that's more mumbo jumbo.
It's more mumbo jumbo. Why did the happy Wanda in another universe create fake kids? I don't know.
Right.
I don't have any clue. Why?
Fake kids identical to the one in a real multiverse. It gets a little
grief created it.
Yeah, it gets a little strange. Yeah. But I don't know. It seemed like
but Thanos did happen in that universe, so maybe the same series of events happened. They just happened more positive. For Wanda. She positively created the kids, like out of mental health, and I don't know.
There was I don't know. The sudden shift for her to me was hard, but I get the Darkhold thing. But to me, when I say invalidated,
it just call it the Necronomicon.
It just made it feel like that whole thing with her. She learned a lesson, but then she went to the Darkhold and got worse. So that's what I mean by invalidate. I don't necessarily mean
this is a perfect place to bring this up too. Is the franchise fixing thing?
Yeah,
is that okay? For maybe this plays easier for me too because I know Wanda from the source material. I know that this was supposed to happen, Wanda is famously has had really bad tears of being a villain. So maybe, and I'm not saying that's good writing. I'm just saying like it goes down easier with some people.
It satisfies the comic book audience.
Right.
I really liked her as the villain in this. I should say that.
Me too.
And I think she's one of the best things in it. It's just I did really have in that moment where she went, it sent me spinning a little bit thinking about WandaVision and stuff like that. And I never really was able to bring it all together, but it's kind of outside the writing in some ways.
And that's why I was telling you guys this off recording that I didn't put on the talking points. The hero versus villain construction isn't really instructive to writers who are listening to this because all that construction was done in the MCU before this.
Yeah, it was done in the movie itself.
Everything that makes it compelling has nothing to do with what's the 10 minutes of setup of Wanda in this movie. It's about the entire MCU, including the TV show's setup, makes the hero versus villain construction compelling, I think. And I don't think that you can't really learn from that.
Is maybe that in some, they kind of do a whole like mysticism versus witchcraft thing with Wanda and Doctor
I mean,
Strange.
they have
That
like
doesn't
2 sentences of discussion about
they
it
barely.
to acknowledge that it's a thing and not
If
really.
I tried, and I'm not really trying, if I tried to defend it, I would say that Wanda is like, an inverse of maybe what Strange is capable of if he went dark, which, number one, I've also seen in another thing.
Right. What I'm saying is that is all there.
It's there.
That's
It's just not
all
in this
great.
movie.
That all feels great. That's all a recipe for a great story, but all that work is achieved
Somewhere else
on screen in other things.
Basically, like you could argue that what if episode is Doctor Strange going evil, getting all that power, and then destroying the universe.
Yeah.
Like Wanda, right.
Yeah, all that work
it's all done
is achieved in other
Yeah.
writing, not in this. So,
Right.
yeah.
Agree.
It's just weird. It's weird. It's weird in that way, Jamie. You like unlock this whole discussion about
Jamie's the Save for Cat TV guy. That's why I said it in our chat. I was like, this is a great episode of this TV show. Talking about it as a movie is
it's the season finale of Doctor Strange.
It is a weird
dude with a season-long problem.
Is so I didn't watch all of the What If, but this is just a question I have out of curiosity.
Yeah.
Is it not What If? Is it actual canon?
Well, yes. So What If it's just a multiverse. They're all multiverses.
Okay.
So everything that happens in What If happens in the multiverse that exists in this movie, in Spider-Man. All of it did happen in one of the universes.
I see. I see.
The Doctor Strange in that episode, technically speaking, is just another version of him, the one
He's not 616.
He's not 616, right?
I got you.
Right.
I got you.
But he's very similar at the beginning of that episode.
Yes.
Very similar, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, moving aside from all of that, from the franchise of it, if we just look at this movie, let's talk about genre. Is this a horror movie?
Yeah, and I put this on here because a lot of people have hoped that this
has
would
been
be the horror
argued
movie.
for weeks on Twitter. Is it a horror movie?
And I just thought it'd be worthwhile. And we can go around. This is just sort of an opinion question.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't think this is a horror movie. I think it's a movie that has horror movie elements in it. Like a lot of my favorite action movies of all time. Like, I mean, that's what I always say is when I saw Raiders of the Lost Ark, it had horror movie elements.
Lots of horror.
And when I saw Lord of the Rings, it had horror movie elements in it. And I think this movie has even more horror movie tropes and things like that. But what do you guys think? Before I go in, I have another bigger kind of thing I want to say about this, but I figured
I was
go ahead, Bob.
You mentioned Spielberg before. And earlier, I was going to say I think what makes Spielberg great in his genre movies is the fact that he has the horror elements in there, the tension.
I agree.
There's always feels like a building terror or building looming everything, and the way he constructs a scene, it always has like something's coming to kill, something's here, but I don't consider those horror movies at all. And while this does have the zombie thing and it has Sam Raimi, it's not a horror movie to me. There's nothing. I mean, like people were talking. I don't know. Maybe it's a whole. It's a generational thing. But this wasn't scary. I wasn't scared at all.
But
during any part of it. But maybe it scares kids or people that are.
I could see an 8-year-old kid that never saw a horror movie before getting really scared at some of the.
It's got
imagery,
elements though. I wouldn't consider it a horror movie. I mean,
Darth Vader scared me when I was a little 6-year-old kid in the movie theater. But that's not a horror movie. Just he scared me. He was scary.
I have a formula, right? But this has made me think about it in like be like maybe I need to be more like specific about my formula is primal life or death stakes plus an intent to scare the audience through our horrors, right? Dread, terror, gross out. It does that occasionally.
You're right.
Like
right.
It doesn't do that for its duration. And I think we're going to bounce. There's later in the talking points, we have a discussion about genre swapping. And I think that will kind of be instructive to why we are all three in agreement that it's not a horror movie. Yeah. So yeah, I say it's not a horror movie, but it does have moments where it is a horror movie. Like it's a horror movie for like a scene. and then it's not, and then it's a horror movie again for
like
a scene.
the tunnel scene is a horror movie.
Right?
Yeah, like that's a horror movie.
Like
And I'll throw wrinkles. So here's what I was thinking when I was watching it. So I was like, this has all these tropes. It has zombies. It has demons. It bloody, gory stuff. It has an eye in somebody's forehead. It has all this stuff.
Somebody getting cut in half.
Yeah. So what I was thinking watching this movie, and this really isn't a great revelation, and this is a save the cat thing, but I started to wonder if any movie that wasn't a monster in the house movie could be a horror movie. And that was what my bottom line. So all the things you said, Jimmy, plus it has to be a monster in the house movie.
The monster, the sin, the house, right?
Yeah.
Is the scene where Wanda invades the Illuminati compound, is that not a monster in the house?
It is.
It is, right?
Yeah.
That's a monster in the house situation, right?
Yeah. I don't know. And I for all I know, this movie might be a monster in the house movie when I really look at it, because she's a monster. The multiverse is the house,
and the sin is the sin is there. Yeah.
But it also feels a little like a Golden Fleece movie in that they're on a hunt for a thing.
I mean, I'll bring it up, Jamie.
Yeah,
we're gonna go get down to it.
This is why I was swapping points, because I was trying to bring these two close together.
Like
trying to get us to MacGuffin.
Yes,
right?
I think the first act is a why done it.
Yes.
Who is doing this? Why are they doing it? Then it becomes the dude with a problem as Strange is trying to navigate this situation. Then it becomes buddy love between Doctor Strange and America. Then it's a monster in the house once Wanda wants the actual lock-in, which is like, I didn't track it, but it's super late. Once she starts attacking, it's a monster in the house. Then it feels like a golden fleece across the multiverse. Then it feels like institutionalized when they're locked into Illuminati institution. They're in the prison. It's an institutionalized story for like 20 minutes. It's a prison story. Mm-hmm. Then it's a rite of passage with Doctor Strange needing to learn that he's doing everything the wrong way through this long, arduous road trip across the multiverses. And all together, it's a superhero movie. So it's like all seven. Is it seven of the Save the Cat genres, Jamie?
Or how many are there?
I think there's seven. Yeah.
There's more than that, because because there's also like Full Triumphant.
Oh yeah. So
and Out of the Bottle, and
but it is a full try. I mean, it is Out of the Bottle with Wanda. Like
yeah. No, there's definitely a few. I think I can't remember the number, but I think there's like 10 or 12 of them total. I'd have
everything
to
you guys just said. It's like the movie being the multiverse of madness is also the multiverse. Of genre types. Right? Like, you know what I mean?
Now, strangely, I keep using strange, very strange.
Waka, waka.
Jokes, man.
I have a feeling you could do that for most movies. Like
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
There are sections in any movie that become monster in the house, and then they become rite of passage when the arc happens.
That's true.
So I think the way you really have to look at it is through the log line and the story DNA. What is the big story you're kind of telling? What is it? And that's the question. Like, is this a monster in the house? But then I was debating, like, all movies technically can be described in, these are all in the eye of the beholder in some ways. So is this a monster in the house movie? To me, the reason it doesn't feel like one is monster in the house movies feel really trapped. Like the hero is trapped with the monster in the house. Like, and that's the whole movie is about avoiding that monster, not defeating the monster necessarily, but it's like avoiding it, trying to survive. They become about survival. They take away the hero's agency to an extent.
That sort of does describe the movie, though.
I think it describes all movies in a vague way.
I know. I'm just thinking about this, though. Like, Wanda is so powerful over Doctor Strange. He is helpless.
You're right.
Even in this massive fucking setting, you know?
In a weird sort of way, it could describe Star Wars too. It's like Darth Vader is so powerful.
The monster.
And the monster is a universe. So that's why it's a little nebulous. But I agree with you. It does, but that's where I was kind of debating, like, because it seems like more they're going on an adventurous romp to try to stop her before she figures them out, like where they are, as opposed to she's stalking them around the globe while they're trying to find it or something. I don't know. Some weird slight difference.
You think that's also because of the mechanics of how the setup of a multiverse works? You know what I mean? Like, once they're not in the same universe, it's like there's kind of no urgency right away, you know?
The clock resets. Yeah.
There's part of me like that I was dipping in. I was like, is this a Monster in the House movie? But then I said, if you define the house as a multiverse, that's the most infinite thing you could possibly
there's
say.
Nothing bigger. There's nothing bigger.
So it just doesn't feel like a house to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a trap.
It's not contained. Yeah.
Like if that's a house, then everything is a monster in the house.
Yeah, that's true.
I just feel that way. So
damn,
anyway,
heavy shit, Jamie.
Yeah. So it set me off in this whole weird thinking mode about what I think is a horror movie, but I think horror movies generally land in the monster in the house. And I'm interested in future episodes as we explore things. If we find a horror movie that isn't monster in the house, and like I said, a movie like Underworld might be classified as horror, but my guess is I wouldn't classify that.
It's not. Yeah.
Can I throw out something that might be a little weird? You guys tell me if I'm off base. But could the monster in the house be like Strange's, not only his morality but his true nature? And the fact that the movie is kind of about him not letting a child die, and he's trapped in that morality box. You know what I mean?
I would say if
you know
the movie focused more on, because the alternate versions of Strange, they are meant to, and they are impactful when they appear.
I mean, like it opens with one Strange trying to kill her,
but they're so scant in their appearance. Like they're so like they only appear like once every 45 minutes, if that. I mean, they're really sparingly like used. And I would say if Evil Strange was the Wanda role, I would agree with you there.
Okay.
That if that makes sense. If it was the what if, if it was the what if episode with Jamie, that's the villain, hero versus villain in the what if episode is Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange.
Okay.
If that scene with the music was the whole movie, that's the what if episode basically.
Right.
So yeah.
So you're saying if it was more prevalent, that could
track. Yeah.
But it's not. You're right. It's not.
It's not.
I was just throwing something out there.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Riffing.
But I mean, that does bring us to America, though, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about America.
Like, it does bring us to America because the movie, it does sort of. I mean, it does begin with this giant scene of Doctor Strange betraying her. Defender Strange, right? That's his name in that.
Yeah,
Defender Strange.
Defender Strange. Yeah.
Yes.
So America felt again a little bit like a tacked on writer thing to me, a little bit like
she feels like we're gonna do stuff with her later type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she a big Marvel Universe character? I don't really know.
Established. Yeah, she is a comic book character with an established.
All my Marvel goes back to pre-1990s Marvel stuff.
I believe America Chavez is a newer character. I've never read America Chavez, but I know that she exists and she has a fan base and everything.
It's funny because a lot of the talk is about Secret Wars, which I have the comic sitting around in my house and I'm looking to sell it if anybody wants to buy it.
Don't forget about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I still have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I also have the one where Spider-Man gets his black costume for the first
Secret
time.
Wars is supposed to be like the next Thanos level event, right? Like that's what they're kind of saying.
And honestly, I remember reading Secret Wars as a kid. And this kind of goes to my tastes when I used to read comics. I was bored with it. I didn't like it too much. I wasn't a big fan of it.
I only like when the Hawk lifted that mountain. That's the only thing I remember liking.
Right.
He lifted it, and then Reed Richards kept making him angry, so he would get stronger to lift the mountain up higher.
That's awesome.
I was super excited about the concept, but then the book kind of bored me.
Whatever.
But anyway, I tend to like the cosmic stuff in the movies more than I didn't really like it as much back in the day. But I like it in the movies. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. So America to me felt, it felt a little bit tacked on, a little bit like we'll kind of give her the basic thing that needs fixing, kind of a little bit of an artificial kind of character arc kind of thing. But a large part, she's a MacGuffin as well. I mean, she's kind of the MacGuffin of the movie. There's two MacGuffins in this movie, which is kind of odd, right? It's like
the Darkhold and her.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Darkhold and the Book of Ashanti.
Yep.
And her.
And her.
And her.
Yeah,
There's
right.
3. So she's a MacGuffin chasing a MacGuffin to fight off a MacGuffin or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like MacGuffin times 3.
So do you want to explain MacGuffins? Because people,
Sure.
you know,
And so MacGuffin, it's a Alfred Hitchcock term, and it just describes a thing that people are chasing after, like the Lost Ark of the Covenant would be something. The briefcase in
The Holy Grail.
Pulp Fiction, the Holy Grail.
If you listen to the Rise of Skywalker episode, the MacGuffins, the Wayfinders.
I was
MCU is just MacGuffin City.
I was going to say this one reminded me of, I was having flashbacks to the Rise of Skywalker, where they felt like the MacGuffins were patches the writers kind of were using to give them something to do. Because this one, I think it uses it in a really good way in this movie, because what it does is, this is a chase movie in some ways. We have to escape because she wants to kill you and we have to get you away. But the best way to do a chase movie is to give them something to run towards and not just keep running away.
Right.
So a lot of the scripts, like I'm asked to read from newbie screenwriters, are chase movies that they're not running to anything. And it kind of makes for that. It's that photo finish line I sometimes talk about, where if you can give somebody a goal that you can take a picture of, or we can see them cross, it's a lot easier for us to attract emotionally than something that can just go on forever. So it's the difference between me saying, can you run fast, versus can you beat the fastest runner in the world to the finish line? And one is like, yeah, I can watch you run fast, but can you run fast for 10 minutes? Can you run fast for an hour, a day? And the other one is like, okay, now I know what to track. And that's
Shanti is the finish line, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. So they give you another one. So the tension is, running with America away. So it is a chase movie, but it also is running towards something. It kind of has a finish line. It's like, we have to run away from Wanda until we get that thing. And once we get that thing, and a lot of movies will do it. This is more the instructional piece of our podcast, but a lot of stories will do it. Like, I have to run away until I figure out who murdered my wife and can get away. It's the fugitive aspect,
right?
Or Minority Report. I have to run away until I figure out
prove my innocence.
Prove my innocence.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the MacGuffin here works similarly to that, I think.
And we're going to get into it later, but ultimately what she learns, and I don't think it's very earned, is to stop running. Like, when America's big moment is learning that she needs to give Wanda exactly what she wants, but use it in a way that stops her. Because like, that's her big moment of growth. America is, she takes her to the dimension where her kids are, front and center, just like Wanda was trying to get her power to do. So she stops running. That's ultimately what she learns to do.
It's a real Raiders of the Lost Ark. Indiana Jones just wouldn't have gotten involved. None of this would have happened.
What I like about her like, confidence boost there is that it's given to her by the same guy that tried to kill her, in her mind. That's the only reason for me it kind of works, but I'm not disagreeing with you, but I like that aspect. I don't know what it's saying.
Yeah.
But I like that it's strange this is the one that built her up instead of the one that tried to break her down, essentially.
Right.
At the beginning of the movie.
Because the reality is, like, there are some people, like, she was running from Thanos. I don't think the answer would be stop running. It's just, in Wanda's case, the answer is stop
running. Right.
It's like there's some bad actors out there that, if they had their way with America's powers, they probably wouldn't end well for the Marvel universe.
True. Right. Well, so I listed a few ways a few craft techniques they use with America to kind of debate in her favor, but also each one of these kind of feels not well executed. So maybe we could just talk about that for a minute. So like, in favor of whether America works, she is a window character for Doctor Strange. So like, they use her in your classic window character. So what a window character is you need to get your characters to talk about their feelings, about how they're progressing or regressing in the story. And the way to do that is you give them a friend. You give them someone to talk to. Classic one is John McClane and and the cop, and I always want to call him Carl Winslow,
Al.
but yeah,
Al,
Al. And Al is the classic window character. And we've even seen in Doctor Sleep, Rose the Hat has a window character with the crow. Like the whole purpose of the crow is to get us to understand how Rose the Hat is feeling about all of these things that are happening. So in that way, she is a really effective window character to get Doctor Strange to talk about his feelings throughout the story. The second one is she's definitely a really impactful agent of change for Doctor Strange. He kills her, and he is a constant reminder. Another version of himself made the wrong choice and killed her. So constantly in his face is the reminder that, like, what you're capable of doing. But that's kind of a non-personified thing, I don't know. That's not the character doesn't really have to do anything. She just has to kind of like stand there, like she's not saying anything to change Strange except for like, I think you betrayed me.
That lives with the audience though too, right?
Yeah.
It's him asking himself, am I capable of it?
Am I capable?
I am?
But it makes her relevant. I'm saying so, and then she does. I agree, Jamie. Like her backstory feels very like unearned. It's kind of like forced in there. They like walk past this thing where they're like, recount your memories, and it's like really force fed. Like we need to figure out how to show us the backstory. Oh shit, we'll just use this thing that like and not really give any explanation.
Okay. I know I'm defending the movie too much, but to me the obvious heavy-handedness of that memory thing felt a little bit Raimi to me, and I like it because of that.
No,
it was just
true.
like it's a memory fucking business, and you step on it by accident.
That's true, and it felt like Darkman, and I love Darkman.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm not gonna say that. Yeah, I hear you. And I do think that she has agency in the third act, even though I don't feel like the growing pains to get to that moment of growth and change are really earned. It kind of feels like, oh, she's grown because like the story needs her to grow. It's one of those things, Jamie, we've talked about in the past. People put it on a beat sheet. They're like, at this moment, she's going to arc. And then they put it in the script, but we don't really have the little George McFly back and forth where he grows a little, he regresses a little. He stands up to Biff, he cowers from Biff, stands up to Biff, cowers from Biff. We need those back and forth little moments of growing pains in order to make these big moments of growth and change feel earned and emotionally impactful. And for me, I feel like those moments aren't earned. But
because you feel like there's nothing done with her kind of in the middle of the movie.
Middle of that. It's missing a beat or two to make you feel like she is growing. She is on the path.
Her whole arc is like at the end. It's
like right in the last minute. Yeah. So I don't know, but I agree with you, Jamie. It's funny that you said she was MacGuffin because I kind of called her a MacGuffin with a face. Like this is not a great comparison, but I'm gonna say that I'm gonna use it anyway. It's like it reminded me of, Jamie, have you heard of the sexy lamp test? It's very similar to the Bechdel test. So I can't remember who came up with this, but it's basically like if your woman character, and she's a teenager, so it's apples and oranges in there. If your woman character could be replaced with the sexy lamp in A Christmas Story with the leg and the hat, and the story stays the same, I'm
gonna disagree. Then I'm gonna
I think, but so there's a thing that they call. It's sort of like the Bechdel test, how people pass the Bechdel test by having one conversation that isn't about a man. And then they're like, well, we passed the test. And they call it a sexy lamp with a Post-it note that has information that helps the story just on the Post-it note for that one moment and then never again. And it kind of feels like a MacGuffin with a Post-it note it's a
bare minimum thing. The fact, I mean, like really, it's just the fact that she is a human life.
Yeah.
That is, and then he is unwilling to sacrifice it to save the universe.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason. Like, otherwise, she is what you're saying, right? Like, she's
a MacGuffin with a Post-it note.
Right.
this has nothing to do with script or anything, but there's something about the casting, the costuming, and the look of her that looks more like a Nickelodeon movie of the week than Marvel.
That's America Chavez's costume, though.
It's very odd. It's something about her stands out in a weird way.
I mean, she's wearing a jean jacket.
Yeah. There's just something about it. I don't know what to say about it. It's like
I feel like there's an America Chavez like Disney Plus show probably coming.
Yes,
that would,
that's what it feels like.
it'll be awesome. Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be awesome. Yeah. I actually love her performance. That actress was really captivating and everything. But I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I was trying to debate both sides of it from a screenwriting standpoint. I think they tried. You can see the craft in there. But ultimately, it feels kind of like a MacGuffin with a Post-it note.
It feels weak. Yeah.
It feels like they keep putting Post-it notes onto it till it was actually a real character, you know. and I think they passed the test that they made it past
just barely. Yeah.
But it feels like they had to kind of like, well, let's keep trying with this because we want it in there. There's a version of it where you probably could just write her out to a large extent,
or replace her with an object is basically what we're talking about when we say call her like a MacGuffin. That can get an object that helps you move through multiverses just by holding it. I
feel like that is a different tone of a different movie, though.
It does.
The fact that she's in there and she has the personality she does and the rapport with Doctor Strange, that's what sells the fun of it. I mean, while it might not be scripted perfectly. You know, I mean, we talk about fun and Raimi and stuff, you know.
Yeah, what do you think there is they really seem to enjoy in the last two movies, at least, putting Doctor Strange with kids? But I guess they did the same with Iron Man.
Because they did.
He's a grump.
Yeah.
He's a grump who knows everything. He's a genius grump. Yeah.
He reminds me I mean, and I know this has been said before, but his character in Iron Man remind me very much of very similar writing styles and stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because and it made sense why almost like it was time for Iron Man to go so he could come. He really has replaced him when I see him with Spider-Man now. He's kind of replaced him in that franchise. And now here it's like when Iron Man 2 had the kid and stuff like that. It just, I don't know.
And then he's gonna
Iron Man 3.
He's gonna be the guy who snaps in Secret Wars for sure. So
I mean, yeah.
It's building to him doing the one thing that he's got to do.
I said it earlier. I feel like he has the most authority right now in the MCU in the audience's mind. People trust him like they did Iron Man to know what's going on, and arguably, I trust him more because Iron Man only had his mind on the groundedness of this Earth. Doctor Strange is actually beyond that, right? So I think there's actually even more authority there.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I feel like we're already jumping to this, right? We have been talking about the plotting, the messiness of it. But you want to talk about goals,
I think we've
Do you feel like we've already talked about that?
Yeah, we've covered it. Yeah.
And we said the chase movie thing.
Yeah.
The not so secret weapon?
Yes. Okay. Yes. This is my favorite not so secret weapon so far since we've discovered this.
Okay.
So Jamie and I have sort of come up with this codified, specific, specialized setup that the hero needs to use to save the day in the end. And we call it the not so secret weapon because it's there. You kind of have an idea that they're going to use it, but you forget about it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, the not so secret weapon. So we get that one really cool moment where they make a joke about it, you know, where he's got the dead Doctor Strange from another universe. And Wong is like, this has got to be against some magical laws. And he's like, who cares? And like when it happened, I did not point to the screen and say the not so secret weapon like it did. But when he turned to the camera and said, she's like, how are you gonna
there
do
has
this?
There has to be a living Doctor Strange there
right.
to take over.
Yeah, and he's like,
he had to be living.
That I literally like said out loud in a theater full of people, the not so secret weapon. So
and this
arguably
one,
the best moment in the movie.
And this one's so good because I didn't pre-guess it right away.
Yeah, me too.
What I mean?
Neither did
it's
I.
like I thought the whole burying thing was just a throwaway to get rid of the body and stuff like that. So the fact that it came back like this and surprise you. Because, use the Force. I can predict that one. I have a feeling use the Forces. Crossing the streams, I can kind of predict that one, right? The alien loader, I could probably predict that one if I thought about it. But this one came out of nowhere. I was like, what?
Manchi and Mitchell's and Machines was a good one. That the dogs can't be quantified by the robots and makes them explode.
To what Jamie's saying, I think the reason I didn't predict it or we didn't predict it is it's two separate moments. It's like getting rid of that body just so no one finds it. And then later on, we're given you can possess people of your same DNA or whatever. And it's so separated.
Yeah,
those two setups.
They had their own. Yes,
you don't ever put it together. It wasn't all done in one scene.
Yeah, they built. Yeah, they were pieces of the puzzle of making that work. That's a good point.
Right.
That's why it didn't seem so on the nose. Yeah,
right.
It would be like showing Crossing the Streams, and then later being like, oh shit, we could have destroyed the universe if we did that.
The DNA possession almost seemed like it was setting up something for Wanda, which is why it was, it was some kind of villain.
She did
thing.
Possess herself.
Yeah, she did. That's what I mean. So it's like setting up and this not so secret weapon. I mean, that's why it's called not so secret, because a lot of times they kind of stand out. But when they are secret, if you could kind of trick people and that surprise, that kind of fun of that creative surprise.
Right. It's been there all along, and now they're learning. Yeah. And
this is
that
really
was the moment the audience cheered when I saw it.
Yeah.
It literally was. So
Me too.
And then to put on like a zombie Sam Raimi-esque kind of Doctor Strange is just, it's incredible. But
it's where all the elements truly came together of everything great about the movie.
It should be said the not so secret weapon is really just a specialized case of setup payoff.
Exactly, and that's what we're talking. It is a setup payoff, but it's a specialized Chekhov's gun in order to save the day. And get out of the situation. It's the climactic one.
Because the original Chekhov's gun, the Book of Ashante, turned out to be a dud. Right?
right.
That's the setup. It's set up at the very opening scene, and then it's turned out to be Wanda just vaporizes it instantly.
Good point.
And so then the only thing left is the not so secret weapon, right?
Yeah. And it's also, we're kind of mixing terms, but they usually go hand in hand. It's not on the talking points, but that is a premise pretzel, right? Like Jamie, he has to do the exact thing that Wanda has been doing. So you take an idea. We've talked about premise pretzels in the past where you kind of take an idea and you play with it. And the best thing to do is to try to use stuff that you already have in your movie to keep, and especially in a story like this was just overflowing with ideas. So they already had this idea going that Wanda can do this. So what else can you do with that existing pre-made setup? You do something else with it. So that's a great example of a premise pretzel.
And to use it instructively, I think if you're ever stuck or you're ever looking for inspiration, and there's really two ways to use this. One is you always go back and just start thinking about things you've already used. Is there a new way to use it? Is there a funny, unexpected way to bring something back? Constantly be going back through your work and looking for things to bring back again in a fun way. That's one way. The other way is if you're really stuck on something and you have no idea how Tarzan's going to get out of the alligator pit, so to speak, maybe go and plant something in an earlier part of your story. That's the more forced tactic. You're there and you're you have no idea how Tarzan's going to get out of the alligator pit. Go and plant the the secret thing that alligators are allergic to.
The not so
back in Act 1. Yeah, go plant it and make a joke of it and use it. Find a way to use it earlier in the script that it comes back here.
My favorite reason, I don't mean it. Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I was going to say not to go back one step, but one of the things I love about this not so secret weapon is it gives the ability for America to get her pep talk from the actual face of the Doctor Strange
one that tried to kill her. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I loved that
there is some heft to that.
It earned that whole opening in a way that you didn't expect it to do.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. And I appreciated that too, Bob.
Yeah.
No, I was just to Jamie's point about learning how to use this not so secret weapon well and premise pretzel, taking an idea and playing with it in different ways. The in Ghostbusters Afterlife, Muncher, it's the ghost that eats metal, and they're afraid of it and trying to catch it because it's taking metal and like using it's like spitting it at them like bullets. So it's all of it is like a threat against them. But then in order to get there locked later in the movie, the police have all the gadgets they need to hunt the ghosts and save the day. And inside this cell made of metal bars is a ghost trap that has Muncher that they captured. And now they have to release Muncher in order to eat the bars that they were trying to get him to stop doing in order to save the day. So Muncher in Ghostbusters Afterlife is one of my favorite recent uses of that.
Also done on this show, I would say Galaxy Quest with the minefield.
Yes, that's
right?
A fantastic example of it.
Right.
Yes. So if you look in the movies, a lot of the best moments are this like premise pretzel playing with it and
coming back on itself.
Yeah.
And that covers premise-specific tactics, right?
Yeah, that was
meaningful choices.
I'm gonna breeze through this one because we did it on the Spider-Man No Way Home episode at length, where we went through every single one of Peter's choices in the movie and why it feels like such a huge growth for him as the story's unfolding. For this, I kind of just want to breeze through it. So I'm constantly reading scripts where characters are making choices that hold no weight. They're meaningless. As Jamie said, they're not the characters aren't faced with dilemmas, right? Where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. This is a great example. I'm just going to use the before and after snapshot. We've talked about how like to measure a character's growth. One way is to look at the before snapshot, how they are, who they are when you meet them, and then the after snapshot, and would they make the same choices in the after snapshot that they made in the before. But like what I'm realizing now as I start to pay more attention to this particular technique is the before and after snapshot is more a before choice, after choice. It's like more specialized than who they are. It's would the character make the choices when we meet them that they make in the end. It's more like a before choice, after choice. And this is a great example of how to take that and give the character the same choice twice to show how they've grown and changed throughout the story. So there's two of them. Doctor Strange is before and after snapshot. The first scene, right? Doctor Strange is faced with a choice. Let this demon absorb America's powers or kill her and take her powers from her and not trust her to stop the demon from killing her. And Doctor Strange chooses to kill her in the opening scene. And in the climactic moment, he's given the same exact choice. He can let her try to fight Wanda with her own powers, or he can kill America and take her powers, just like we saw him make the choice to do in the opening. But he's learned the lesson and he trusts America to use her powers herself. And so he makes a different choice than we saw him make the open. So that's a great example of how you give the character the same choice at the beginning when we meet them and at the end as we've seen them experience the whole story. And that shows the audience how the character has changed. And America, it's kind of weak, but it is there, which is America's spent the entire movie running from Wanda, who wants to kill her and take her powers. And in the end, she chooses to actually give Wanda like what she wants and use her powers to bring Wanda to the mother and the child that she's trying to like take over. And I think that's a meaningful choice that shows growth, even though I don't think they earned it. I think it is a good example of giving us like the same kind of choices. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about.
It's kind of earned only through Strange's really, like, you know,
yeah,
what I mean? She's like
Strange kind of
earns to talk to her to say, you know what, here's what you should do.
Yeah. But a good way to use this technique is to figure out like, how can I show the audience how my character has grown and changed in a really meaningful way? And it is to give them a dilemma at the start and have them make the wrong choice, and then at the end have them make the right choice. And if it's a tragedy, it's the opposite, right? They
Mm-hmm.
make a choice at the start that's the right choice, and by story's end, they're making the wrong choice with the same exact scenario. So yeah. Yep.
I feel like you can apply this too to our next topic. Like,
Mhm.
we're talking about theme and lesson, but I'm thinking about listening to you speak. I'm almost wondering if you couldn't apply the same thing to Doctor Strange and, you know, his lost love. Because I feel like at the beginning he hasn't accepted it. In the end, it's him accepting it finally.
Mhm.
Much less obvious to a degree of what we're talking about with America. But you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, he kind of comes to terms with like how he feels, and he knows where it has to go. Like at the end, you know, like it's a decision.
That's
He
why I
kind of
wanted to
knows
ask
again.
you, like,
Yeah.
you're validating what I was thinking, which is, and I know you guys are 2 weeks or how long removed from
2 weeks,
seeing this,
yeah.
but in the Spider-Man, do you remember in the Spider-Man Far From Home, there was like so many themes bouncing around that we
Mhm.
couldn't like, and there's a Save the Cat article out there that like really simplifies the theme. And hey, like everything in that Save the Cat article is very measurable, and it's basically says the theme is he has to learn to, you know, to trust others, like not be a control freak. But I feel like this movie is trying to say a lot of things. Like you said, Bob, it's about like learning that about the coming to grips with the lost love,
letting
letting go. Like someone says to him, Professor Xavier says to him, just because someone stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean they're lost forever. Baron Mordo says to him, I hope you understand the greatest threat to our universe is you. These are all the movie is kind of throwing a shit ton of themes in the mix that
does that not go with Mordo saying that? Does that not go with the theme of him learning to give it to America?
That's true. It's sort of an
Like,
extension of that. That's a good
it's
point.
Doctor Strange giving up supreme power, right?
Control. Yeah. I think it's
and I would also add that I really looked to the Wanda section to kind of give me clarity on this.
Mm-hmm.
And what do they say to her in the end? Like when she finally lets her kids go, somebody says something to her, and I can't remember the line exactly, but it was along the lines of you have to be happy that knowing that
in some universe you're happy with your kids and they're safe and something. Like yeah.
And I somehow to me that gives clarity to him because it has this weird domino effect.
Yeah, because Christine in another universe, maybe he and Christine are together and happy.
Or just Christine is happy.
Christine herself is happy. Yeah.
It's not in his universe, quote unquote.
Oh, and
universe.
Well, you know what? They set up that she's happy. That's that whole conversation. Like, are you happy?
At the beginning of the movie.
So maybe it's him coming to grips with, hey, she's happy in your 616 universe. Like, and you should be okay with that. Yeah. That's a good point, Jamie. That's definitely there.
It's weird how talking about the concept of multiverse makes the writing so much more difficult.
Well,
because we're not used to talking about that.
Yeah.
I mean, and I saw this movie a couple weeks ago and I didn't totally track the theme, but if I just recalling it, to me, it's kind of like it's giving up the selfish notion. It's almost like the love is his possession, but instead, if he really loved them, he'd care that they were happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's focused on his own pain.
Yeah.
But and Wanda is too. She's focused on her own pain. But if she looked outward and saw that they were happy, that should be enough for love. That's the love aspect.
And if he looked outside of himself and saw that Christine was happy, that should be enough. And he has to learn that that's enough.
That's true.
That's good work for both
definitely,
of them. Yeah. That tracks.
He has a confessional line. And I heard that this was in the reshoot, so it feels like they really wanted to have this. And he says to Christine, I love you in every universe. It's not that I don't want to care or want someone to care for me. I'm just scared. What does that say? It kind of is relevant to what you just said.
It's almost him making an excuse for how he was.
Yeah.
And I mean, he doesn't say he's going to change, but saying it means you're changing. It's dealing with
he would never have said that in the opening scene. They give him an opportunity to do so when she says, "Are you happy?" And that's what he wanted to say.
At no point have we met Doctor Strange that would say that until then.
Vulnerable. Yeah. Be vulnerable to others. Yeah. And that's what he does when he asks Christine to help him. He's extremely vulnerable.
And that enables him to give America what she needs.
And then make the entire universe vulnerable. Yeah. Multiverse. Yeah.
So if you had to just say it in a sentence, how do you do that?
Yeah. Learn to be vulnerable to others, maybe. Jamie, I like what you were saying earlier. I feel like I messied it up.
Yeah.
No, I think yours is a good big picture, though. Is you it's kind of it's about them, not you. I mean, it's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's kind of the Batman all over again, huh?
Yeah.
It's not
a little bit like that.
Yeah.
But that's not perfect because it doesn't mix in the vulnerability. Here's the thing that's interesting about this. It's reminding me of a lot of when I do read scripts and stuff and from students and things like that. A lot of people go, and I do this too, to the theme of controlling versus leaning to let go. And it's a really hard theme usually to navigate to me, because I think you have to take a step towards tangibleness with it, like how we're talking, like what does that mean? What does that specifically mean? And in this case, he's controlling like he wants her back or Wanda wants her kids. But what she really needs to learn is to be happy her kids are happy. And I think if you have something like, I can't tell you how many times I do control, maybe it's a personality trait of mine or something that resonates with me somehow, because controlling usually comes from fear and trying to not be vulnerable. That's where
Doctor
controlling
Strange
comes from.
literally says too.
Yeah. So anyway, this is more me probably admitting something I need to learn that I'm learning through. This is my
therapy, man.
Yes, it's your therapy session.
Is because in from a writing term, I end up in that controlling versus lack of control, or giving up control, or allowing chaos.
Yep. Chaos.
That's a theme that comes back in my work all the time, and I always am disappointed with myself that I land on it. But it's usually because I can't come up with this concrete thing we're saying. It's like it's too nebulous, and I'm sure that happens with a lot of themes. Is you come up with like the theme behind the theme, and then you have to. It's almost like the photo finish. It's like you need to get it to more concrete terms in the world.
Yeah, more specific. Yes,
but then you almost have to keep the heart of it, which is this control versus lack of control thing. And then use that when you're thinking about the other kind of
premise delivery and the scenarios that they're going to experience in order to be wrestling with this problem and this lesson and things like that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I think this movie probably does that. Again, I was too dazzled by all the Sam Raimi shenanigans.
Well, IMDb helped me with having all those different lines from the theme team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like there's all because I took a quote from Cumberbatch. Is that how you say his name? Cumberbatch, and he about this story, and he said, "There's a lot of reckoning, a lot of self-discovery. Strange is almost a stranger to himself before this film unfolds and reveals what is essentially his nature, that he then has to either confront or resist or fall into or become." And I do feel like that's measurable, but what is that? And that's what we're all circling around.
Can I say too, the second time I saw it twice, it read much clearer. Like the first time, like Jamie said, I was kind of taken with all the Raimi-ness of it. But once I was past that, it does read better, like the themes of it and stuff. Because, now you're paying attention to other stuff besides the zombie face. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So I think it does track, especially if with multiple watches. It's there.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Last messy transition. Rule of threes.
Yeah, I just wanted to, since I started this podcast saying that I thought the script was a mess. Yeah. I wanted to speak about what I thought was good about the craft. And
it's your arc.
Yeah. I'm growing and changing as the podcast unfolds.
Right.
And this is another example. Marvel movies like to do this, but a lot of movies like to do this. This is one of my favorite tools It is using repetition to show how a character is growing and changing. And another easy way to do that, this is a very easy technique to do, is to use a rule of three. And a rule of three comes from comedy. It's like a vaudeville thing. When something happens on stage 3 times, it's funny. But the formula is basically set up, repeat it, then reverse it with the payoff. And you can use this situationally, or we just, in the Batman episode, we talked about Bruce coming into the club, and they did a rule of three where he tried to come into the club as Batman, and it was a joke. He tried to come up in as Bruce Wayne, and it was a joke. And then the third time they open the door and he's not there, and he sneaks in. So he learns, he grows, and he changes as just learning how to be the Batman. So it's a really easy way to get the audience to understand that your character is getting better. And so this one has 2 of them, and they do it, and they pay it off in the same scene, which is very interesting. And that is the "Are you happy?" And the bowing to the Sorcerer Supreme. So Christine asks Doctor Strange if he's happy, and he says he lies, and he says yes. Then the second time, evil Doctor Strange asks Doctor Strange, "Are you happy?" And clearly, and he's not. And we have this more darker version of that scenario. Then the third time, Doctor Strange has kind of grown a little through the story, and he's more concerned with others. And he asks Wong, "Are you happy?" Which is the first time in the whole story that Doctor Strange has connected with Wong at all. Wong goes into his thing. And then after Wong confesses how he feels about that question, they pay off the bowing to Sorcerer Supreme. In the beginning of the story, Wong is offended that Doctor Strange doesn't respect him and says, it's custom to bow to the Sorcerer Supreme. And Doctor Strange is basically like, F you. And then the second time, all these sorcerers are showing up from all over the world to help protect America from Wanda's attack, Carmitage. And they immediately, upon arrival, bow to the Sorcerer Supreme. And Wong turns to Doctor Strange and says, "See, it's tradition." And he rolls his eyes. And then in the third time, after Doctor Strange has grown and changed, after Wong tells him about how he feels, he bows to the Sorcerer Supreme. So it's a very simple tool to show how a character is growing and changing. And often, Jamie, I don't know if you use this, but I actually write these separately as their own mini movies. And then I stick them in where it's organic and to kind of earn them. But I actually, when I first start, one of the first things I do once I figure out a character arc is I go how can I show that through repetition? And I'll come up with a couple scenarios and a couple dialogue repetition and reversals, and I write those are the first things I write for the character. And then after I've plotted it out and everything, I'll pop them in where they're appropriate and organic to the situation. So
I feel like if I'm repeating myself from other episodes, I apologize. But whenever you bring this up, I always say I think of it always like a joke.
It is. It functions like a joke, and it has roots in vaudeville. So
to me, I always, when I'm writing, I think set up, establish, payoff. Mm-hmm. So the establish is important because that's the repetition. That's the repetition, and then the payoff is
doing the same thing but reversing it. Yep. So it's another. That's good. It's a great example of some craft on display that's very specifically used and impactful, and you can learn from and do yourself. So
I didn't even read that bowing thing the first time. For some reason, I didn't catch
it's that. Subtle.
It's very subtle. Mm-hmm. But the second time I was like, oh, okay. They built it through. All right.
And they do that in the same exchange. So they pay both of those off. They're really efficient in how they show Doctor Strange's growth using Wong, his relationship with Wong. So, yeah.
Cool. And with that, I think we're done.
Yeah.
We're done. Do you want to say anything you especially learned here from Doctor Strange, talking about Doctor Strange?
Yeah, I definitely learned. Bob, you taught me in previous episodes, and those previous lessons taught me while watching this that individual superheroes Batman is his own genre. Superman is his own genre. Iron Man is his own genre. Captain Marvel will be her own genre. Doctor Strange is his own genre with his own expectations, and things like throwing out magic left and right without needing to explain the spells or what they are or what their limitations are and things like that. That'll work in a Doctor Strange movie because Doctor Strange is his own genre. So that was instructive to me. That was
cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Hey, anytime somebody says I taught them anything,
you did.
As a professional non-teacher, I'll take it. Jamie, anything?
I think what I learned was something much more mundane, is that I probably should watch the What If. I haven't finished those off.
That's my favorite episode, to be honest.
Yeah, I started to watch them. I think I got as far as the Guardians of the Galaxy one, which was pretty good, but then I didn't watch after that. So I'll have to check them out.
The Strange one is my favorite episode. But yeah, it's a good series. I think it might actually be my favorite
Marvel thing.
My favorite Marvel series. Because in some ways, there's an argument that most of this stuff probably should just be animated.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I love live action, but it's like...
It sort of is in some ways.
It sort of is, yeah.
Yeah,
so
good
much
point,
CGI.
Jamie. Yeah.
Do we have... You guys have anything you want to plug? Jamie? I think, Jamie, you might, right? You have...
just Comedy of Horrors is out. You can check it out. It's on all the streaming networks. You have to pay for it, but it's cheap. It's like $3.99 or $2.99 or something to rent. So go get it. Go rent it. Check it out. I did the Fun with Berkeley episode. It has a puppet.
That's on Amazon, Jamie?
It is on Amazon. Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
I will say I don't have the exact date, but WNUF Halloween Special is not going to be on Shudder for very much longer. So if you have Jamie, co-wrote the story with us. Bob helped out with the movie. So all three of us are involved in that movie. It is a found footage Halloween horror fun movie on Shudder, and it's only going to be there for a couple more months. So if you haven't checked it out, check that out. So yeah.
Cool.
I got cool news the other day too. This really isn't a plug, but it looks like I'm going to go to the Austin Film Festival this year and do some panels and such. If it all
that's awesome. Maybe we'll get like 13 more listeners.
That's right.
Yeah, plug the podcast.
I'll take some T-shirts for our table for our Save the Cat table. So,
make every movie a sequel. That's Jamie's mic drop.
Every movie a sequel.
Exactly.
So I actually have a plug. In 2020, with a bunch of very talented filmmakers, I actually made a feature called "The Transformation of the Transformations of the Dr. Jenkins." It's a terrible title to type in. It's streaming on Tubi for free with commercials. If you're a listener of this show and you want to see me completely make fun of myself and play a fake version of myself,
hey,
that's exactly what you're gonna get with that movie.
It's Multiverse Bob.
Yeah,
it's literally Multiverse me. Yeah, it's actually kind of perfect that this is the first time. I'm gonna probably plug it on a few episodes, but so yeah, it's on Tubi. The transformations of the Dr. Jenkins. I think if you just type in Jenkins, it'll pop up. But so
Leroy Jenkins.
You want to see Bob make an idiot out of himself and make fun of everything he does? That's where you want to go. And I think with that, guys, we're good, right?
Yeah. Do you want to tease what we're doing next? Because I think it's a big one.
Sure. What are we doing next?
We are doing Jurassic Park next. I think I'm more excited about this coming episode than any other episode.
No,
so check that out.
This is that would also be a Bob episode too. Awesome. Like, you know how we had like the Wayne's World thing stuff. I think I've been asking you guys to do Jurassic Park since
it's
day
time.
one. It's time. It's time we hit it. And Dominion's coming out.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all perfect. So we're gonna do Jurassic Park, which is Spielberg. So Jamie should be excited.
Jamie,
too, right? And we have we done David Koepp? Have we done a Koepp?
No,
I don't know.
That's surprising.
He has did he co-write Spider-Man 2?
Yes,
he may have.
He
may have.
Yeah, because he wrote the first one. So
we have done a Koepp before.
Okay, so that would be.
He has kind of his reputation is on and off, right? Like some people love, some people hate. So we're doing Jurassic Park. I'm totally excited about that.
Yes, me too.
Yeah, but thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Bye-bye.
You have just listened to Writers Blockbusters. a screenwriting podcast featuring two professionals and another guy. Available only on Thundergrunt.